going to demonstrate how to set up a spelling dictionary to check vernacular spelling data. This sample data is in language that has had a couple different orthographies. There's this orthography, this chart shows you some of the changes between the previous orthography and the orthography that I'm trying to change this data into. The way that you set up a vernacular spelling dictionary in FLEx is that FLEx has a list of all the words in your corpus, or all the words that have ever been in your corpus. And for each word, there's an indication of whether that spelling is correct or incorrect or undecided. And so what we need to do is set that value for each of the words. And I'll show you strategies for how to do that quickly and effectively. So this is a text, and originally I typed it in the old orthography, and then I went through and edited it to change it to the orthography that I'm targeting. But I may have missed some places. And so I want to set up the spell checker so that it can help me see if I've been consistent with the orthography that I'm trying to use. Now in this database, some of the words are in the lexicon, but you can see there's only 33, and many of those are actually suffixes. And then in terms of the text, this one text, there's a couple words that are analyzed, but not very many, just a couple. Most of it is unanalyzed. And then I have other text. This one is fully analyzed, and this other one is not analyzed at all. So one thing about FLEx is when you have text, it collects all the surface word forms into the corpus word list. And any of these views that talk about the word list or word forms show you the corpus word list. And so I'm going to go to word analyses, and here you can see a list of all the words that are currently in the corpus or that may have ever been in the corpus. This column is for number in corpus. So this one is a word that used to be in it, but I changed the spelling. And so this reflects the old spelling. The ka sound is with a C instead of a K. And the final k sound is represented with a J instead of a Q. I'm trying to do the Q. So you can leave these in your corpus word list or you can delete them, but in this case they're actually helpful because I can set them, I can designate that the spelling is incorrect. You can see that there's a total of 69 words. So I actually want to go to bulk edit word forms, and this bulk edit is similar to the other bulk edit for lexical entries, but this one, instead of working on the dictionary data, this works on what's in the corpus. And the words in your corpus, there's some overlap with what's in your dictionary, but normally words in the corpus are inflected, whereas in the dictionary it would be the roots or the citation form. And the corpus word list may also include words that are no longer in your corpus. And so this is where we can use bulk edit to set the value for the spelling status. So this is showing you all the words, and I've made sure that certain columns show. There's the column for number in corpus, another one for user analyses, that's if I have parsed it, if I've looked at it, and then spelling status. And so this spelling status is the magic field that we need to set. And so I could go through one by one and change the spelling status for each word, but that's tedious and time consuming. And there are ways to do it in a bulk edit approach. So one of the first things I can do, since I know that the previous time I typed it, I used the orthography that I don't want, and many of those words are not there, I can filter for words that are not in the corpus. So in this number in corpus column, one of the filters, there are filter options related to how many are showing. It knows it's a field that gives a count. And so there's lots of options related to numbers that wouldn't normally be there for a string field. So I want to find words that appear 0 times in the corpus. So I will choose 0, and there are 14 words that are no longer in my corpus. And so I can look at this. And I can glance down them and quickly I can see, you know, these ones that end with a J, I want it to end with a Q, or they start with CA and I want it to be KA. There's a number of different things. Now I'm seeing this one and I don't think that's spelled wrong, and I don't think that one is spelled wrong, so I'm going to untick them. Now you may remember that with bulk edit you can do a filter to collect the words that you think you want to change, and then you can use these checkboxes to fine tune it. Huti is also spelled correctly. So this way I can pick and choose, pick out the ones that shouldn't apply, but all of these C's mean that these should be changed. Ichanga, that should be a Q instead of a G. Okay, so I'm scanning down the list, looking up and down. I've unticked 3 of them, but that's 11 words I'm going to change all at once. And your data may have a lot more words in it, and you can come up with strategies for finding the words that you care about, or only changing the ones that you're certain of and leaving the rest for later. So our goal is to change the spelling status field. So I'm on the bulk edit list choice tab. It's important to be on this tab because this is a range set. There are only certain values possible for spelling status. I set the target field to be spelling status. And then for these, I want to tell it that they're incorrect because they use the other orthography, old orthography. So I will choose incorrect, and I can do a preview. I'll make that whiter. Do a preview, and I can see which ones will change and which ones will not. And so the ones that I unticked, they are not going to change. So that looks good to me. I'll check up and down. Looks good. I will go ahead and do apply. Okay, so now my spelling dictionary has begun. It has some words in it that are marked as incorrect, and if it finds those in a text, it will flag them when you're telling it to flag. So let me remove all the filters again. So the next thing I want to do is move on to the ones that do appear in the corpus. So let's start by setting this to be greater than 0. I already dealt with the ones that were 0, and now there's 55 like that, but that's still more than I want to deal with. So one good candidate is the ones that actually have a user analysis, because I've looked at those, and so presumably those are spelled correctly. So let me click on this, and I want greater than 0. It could be one or more analyses. So now there's 23. That's easier to go through. So I'm going to scan down this list, and so far things look okay. But when I come to this one, I see this C here, and I don't want that to be a C. I want that to be a K. So like this runa kuna, all these, the kuna is the plural suffix, and it should be with a K. So this one is not correct, but all of the others do look correct. So I will just untick that one, and then I can say I want all of these to go to correct, and I'll check the bottom and the top. I'll do a preview. So everyone accept that one. So I will go ahead and apply. And so now my spelling dictionary has some that are correct and some that are incorrect and a bunch that are still undecided. So I will leave it there, but I want to deal with Nogakuna because I know what I want it to be. But it's telling me that it has one user analysis. So I really want to find that. So one way to find all of the places that a word is analyzed, it occurs twice in the corpus with one analysis. So there's the word list concordance, that's one option, and there's word analyses. Word analyses is where we want to look at it, but if I go right there, then I have to find it in the list. If I right click on it, then I get the option, I could show it in the concordance or I could show it in word analyses. I want to choose word analyses. That will take me directly to that word in this view. Let me give us a little more space. And so here is that analysis. So someone had asked earlier, can we keep parses that we've already made if we're changing the orthography? So here's sort of an example of what's involved in doing that. So this one has already been broken into morphemes, and I want to keep that break. But this morpheme, it still has the old spelling. And I would like to change it. I can't change it right here, so I'll need to change it somewhere else. I'll get to that in a second. First, I want to fix the spelling. Now, up here are some special fields. You notice that there's this field for spelling status. So this is where I would go if I wanted to change things one by one. But first, I just want to fix the spelling. Now, what is kind of a hidden feature, if I click on this label spelling status, there's a blue arrow that appears. You may not realize that it's there, and there's some commands that are available there if you know that they're there to find. So I click on that, and we have the option of change spelling. Now, I believe that you can also get there from the tools menu, tools, spelling, change spelling. Okay, so there is more than one way to get there. So we will click on change spelling. Now this is showing me a concordance. This is showing me all the places in all of my texts where Nogakuna occurs spelled that way. And one is in my Goliath text and another is in my examples text. And so down here it asks what I want the new spelling to be. And so I am just going to change the C into a K. So that's my new spelling. And it asks, okay, should it maintain case? So this one's capitalized because it's the beginning of a sentence. And yes, I want to keep it capitalized. So I'll have that ticked. But remember, we had some analyses. And so is there a way to keep the analyses? Well, let's click on the More button. And there's these radio buttons. So the default is to delete the analysis because you may need to go back and redo it. But I want to try to keep it. So I will tick the radio button for keep multimorphemic analyses. We split it into morphemes and we want to keep that. So I think I'm done. I think I'm ready. So I will do a preview. And so here it's showing me where it will change it. And by showing it to you in context, you may be able to see, okay, in that context, I don't really want to change it. And like if I didn't want to change that one, I could untick that box and it wouldn't. That way you can change several, but not necessarily all. But in this case, I do want to change it. So I will tick it back again and I will click apply. And there's no more that meet that criteria. So I will click close. Okay, let's go back over to the text because I'm still on the word form with the C in it, right? So let's go back over to the text and find that word. It was in the examples database. So here is the word with the correct spelling. And so now over here, I can actually change it in the morpheme break. And then if I try to see if there's an entry, so there is an entry. It wasn't guessing yet. I had to click on the arrow, but that is indeed the plural suffix. So I will do that and I will approve this analysis. So now I've done it in one place, but if you recall, it was appearing in more than one place in the corpus. So if I right click on this, I can get back to word analyses to find all of them. Thought I could right click. There we are. I had to left click on it first and then right click show in word analyses. Okay, now there are two analyses shown for it and I don't want that one, but I do want to keep the second one. And so now I want to see, well, okay, I can use the assign analyses tool. I don't want to go into the details of this. That one is correct. Okay. There's an occurrence with no analysis. The analysis that I want is analysis 2. So I will click on this and you need to click on the one with the word gloss and I will do assign. I haven't explained in detail how this tool works. I'm just going to do it. I could get into that in more detail if you would like me to. And so now nothing should be using this first analysis. I can click here and there is nothing using that analysis. So it is now safe to delete this. I don't want this analysis. It's not going to come up again because we're not going to have that spelling. I don't want to keep it as a user disapproved one. I will just delete it. Okay, so now I have the correct spelling and the correct analysis, and it appears in 2 places in the text. If I click on that, I can see there are 2 examples. I'm sorry, I'm not explaining assign analysis well. But if you want to know more about it, let me know and I can talk to you one-on-one. So we have corrected that. So now let's go back to bulk edit word forms. We do still have filters on. I'm going to take off the filters. We could check to find how many have we set to be correct. So the filter under spelling status, it knows what the values are. So let's see how many are correct. There are 23 set to be correct. And how many have I defined as incorrect? There are 11. I mean, that's a pretty good start. And then undecided, there's still 35, but this is at least a beginning, okay? So let's see where we've gotten. So if we go back over to the interlinear texts and we go to the baseline tab, I'll go back to my Goliath text. These are the words, but if I use the tools menu and spelling option, I can tell it to show me vernacular spelling errors. So you get a choice of turning this on or off, because sometimes it can be annoying to have it on if you haven't set up spell checking, but now I have. So I will choose show vernacular spelling errors, and now you see red squiggles. And so these red squiggles are for ones that are either declared to be incorrect, or they might also just be undecided. So for instance, if I click on this word, I'm looking at it and I realize that is spelled correctly. So I will right click on it and I can add it to my spelling dictionary. And I'm not completely sure why it's showing me a different word up here instead of Kaikaptinchi, but I will add to the spelling dictionary and the red squiggle goes away. This nova, that is incorrect, and so I do want that one to be highlighted. And so then you would go through, it's kind of an iterative process. You go through continuing to find filters and set words to spelling correct or incorrect, and there's a number of different ways that you can filter. If you have a lot of words in your corpus, you might filter based on the frequency, and words that occur at least 10 times in your corpus, you might decide, okay, fine, they're just correct. I'm not going to read every single one of them. Words that occur once are a candidate for being incorrect, but just because it occurs only once doesn't mean it is incorrect. But that's one place you might find those. So I think I will leave it at that. There are details in the helps, and you can write to me if you have questions, but hopefully that's given you a taste of what is possible.